song there.
Go ahead and mute me.
Go ahead and mute Benjamin because we're live.
This is live Warm Memorex on a most inauspicious day. Hello, Ericka.
Robert, it is. How, sir, are you doing?
I am focused and I am angry and I am exasperated. And you know that whole thing about where's the outrage?
Yeah.
I want to see what the American public's response to all of this is. But you know what? So not too much kibitzing today.
Yeah.
I think we need to go right to the monologue. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we have a very, 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 did I say the word very special guest?
Wicked.
The Honorable
Super
Bonnie Glick,
wicked.
Businesswoman, diplomat, former head of USAID, which is Agency of International Development, served in the UN, just so much International Security Council, just an incredibly informed, intelligent, VIP politician who, I shall hate that I called her a politician, by the way. Public official, is that better? Public official in DC.
She's nodding her head. I can see she's nodding her head.
Exactly, which means she's with us. But let's go to the monologue, and then I want to bring her in because there's so much happening in Israel and the world that I really want to get her perspective on this. So no kibitzing today. Hello, and welcome to Of the People. Peace for our time. Those were the infamous words spoken by then British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain in 1938. As a matter of fact, it was September 30th, 1938, almost 66 years ago today, when he returned from Munich, Germany, having signed the non-aggression pact with Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany. He gives the speech, I think at 10 Downing Street, as I recall. They go to bed. What happens? Hitler goes in and takes the Sudetenland. A year later, he takes the rest of Czechoslovakia and Poland, and we are officially in World War II. Ladies and gentlemen, appeasement as a foreign policy didn't work then, and appeasement as a foreign policy doesn't work now. For those who have not caught up on the news, a few hours ago, Iran launched a ballistic missile attack against Israel, sending hundreds of ballistic missiles into Israel. And by the way, it's not a few dozen missiles, as CNN blatantly misreported out of the gate, because, of course, this is about the Jewish state, so why not underreport the facts? This is an all-out attack on a sovereign nation by way of Iran, which is really the head of the serpent. To put this in perspective, this is the largest ballistic missile attack on a foreign nation in the history of the world, right? The fact that there weren't so many casualties does not lessen the severity of the attack. And it really lays bare the perpetual lie by the U.S. media that Israel and the Middle East are, quote, on the brink of war. Israel is not on the brink of war. Israel has been at war since they were attacked on October 7th by Hamas out of Gaza, killing over 1,300 Israelis and Americans, taking hundreds of hostages. We think 100 are still alive, but my guess is most of them are probably not, and committing unspeakable atrocities in the process. So this is really simple. Iran's appalling attack is not the first, it's the second missile attack since October 7th. And it proves that Israel and America are already at war. And like I said, the fact that there weren't casualties is more or as many casualties, there are some, that is a testament to Israel's technology, not to anything else, but doesn't lessen the severity of the strike, nor the need, to be honest, for Israel to respond decisively and directly against such aggression. Today's events prove two things. Number one, that Israel must be allowed to defend itself and its territory and its people, regardless of whether the U.S. supports that response or not. They will certainly give lip service to this report, the Biden administration, right, and their policies of appeasement towards towards Iran helped create this situation. I find it very interesting that Secretary of State Blinken today released an op-ed touting that the Biden-Harris administration foreign policy has put the U.S. on strategically such a better footing in the world. I don't think he knew that was going to happen, that the attacks were going to happen, but for that to come out at the same day is interesting. The second thing that's crystal clear in all of this is that peace will only come for Israel and its neighbors when Iran and its proxies are, and the mullahs in Iran, the leadership in Iran, are relegated to the dustbin of history. Peace for our time or appeasement didn't work in 1938. Peace will only be achieved, in the words of Ronald Reagan, peace through strength. Appeasement didn't work then, and clearly, based on the events of today, it doesn't work now. And that's the monologue. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled to have joining us today the Honorable Bonnie Glick. She is the former head of USAID. She is the co-author of three patents. She's worked at IBM. She served in the National Security Council of the United Nations. Foreign Services. She is also a PASC, which most people don't know is Presidential Appointee, Senate confirmed. That's a big deal and a big process. And most importantly, Bonnie was the first person to step up when I started talking to people about Israel Appreciation Day. And her response was, whatever it takes, I'm in. We need to all do this together. And for that, and she's become a very good friend in a very short amount of time. And I'm honored to introduce to you Bonnie Glick, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Of the People.
Thank you so much, Robert and Ericka. Very, very kind intro. You asked me to do it. It was coming from you. So, of course, I said yes.
Well, we are in the process of putting together an edited version for those who missed the event. It's an incredible event. It was actually 3.5 hours. You got to leave early because you were on the B stage. But those of us in Vegas had to stay there for a long time. But it was a great show, and thank you again for being such a part of it. I do want to jump just to sort of the events of today in Israel and get your perspective on it and what you think might be Israel's response, what you think might be the U.S. response under the Biden-Harris administration. I mean, obviously, if you listen to the monologue, you certainly know my position on it. And look, I don't want this to be political. I want this to be sort of unvarnished. So what does Israel do? What are their options? What will the allies do if Israel has any? Let's start there.
Well, it is a very somber day, but the Jewish approach to life is it could have been worse, right? There was one person who was killed, and that was a Palestinian in Judea. And it's a little bit of karma there. And my understanding is there were 190 ballistic missiles thereabouts launched at Israel from Iranian territory. Of those 190 missiles, Israel was able to attack mostly successfully and knock down 90% of those missiles. The United States, the U.S. Navy was able to knock down about 10% of those missiles. We do still have an ally in America, I will say, in Israel. But we don't always have an ally in the Biden-Harris administration, nor in the halls of Congress. One of the things that I saw come out very, very clearly during the course of events today was the outpouring of support, incredible outpouring of support from members of Congress and senators, nearly all of whom were Republican. Again, this isn't a partisan statement. It's simply a statement of fact that the Republicans have really rallied. Former President Trump had a statement on this, but also allies around the world have come out and said, we stand with Israel. Not a lot, maybe, but the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, the
Mm.
former head of what we would call Homeland Security in the United Kingdom, Suella Braverman, the former Prime Minister of the UK, Liz Truss, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. People have been coming out and saying that they stand with Israel. But here's the main thing. Commentators, pundits, entrepreneurs who have a great deal of interest in ensuring that Israel, the startup nation, continue to thrive. People have been coming out and saying every and any action that Israel takes against Iran is fully justified. And I think that that's accurate. You noted, Robert, that this was the largest number of missiles launched at the sovereign territory of a country in the history of the world. But
Right.
in April, Iran launched the second most. Up until that time, it was the most missiles launched in a single foray at a
Wow.
sovereign nation. So Iran is asking for it, right? When you think about this act of war, this egregious and wanton aggression directed against Israel, who happens to be a treaty ally of the United States, it is an unacceptable level of attack. Not that any attack is ever acceptable, but it warrants a response, and Israel would be justified in responding in any way that it chooses.
So I just am curious, right? We hear a lot of times about what it means to be an ally of the United States, and especially in relation to NATO. I know I
Right.
love the face you just made. Um, so if so help me understand, help our audience understand. If one of our allies is aggressed on, we are like obligated to defend them, right? Like in some kind of a way. And so, but then, and I'm just curious, like because everybody's talking about World War III. So if Iran attacks one of our allies and we're like, yo, bro, no, and then we shoot them back, and then what have we started? Then who's going to attack us on behalf of Iran? Because we can wipe them off the map. So Iran cannot be thinking like, oh, I'm going to be good against Israel and America. Like, what are we missing that's not
So wait a minute. Are you
obvious?
asking Bonnie to get into the head of the Iranians?
I
Sort of what their
mean,
psychology is?
I guess because Iran, look, they cannot be doing this thinking that they can get away with it. So there has to be something behind it. Either they're like, oh, if they do this, the Chinese are going to back us up, and then it's going to be a whole what's the end game? I know it's to kill the Jews, but
Yeah.
there's got to be more behind this.
Well, the end game is to eradicate Israel. That is Iran's mission. The mullahs who are driving everything out of Iran. But there is a little bit of a distinction. Actually, it's a very big distinction between being a treaty ally of the United States, like Israel is, and Israel is also falls into the category of major non-NATO ally, which is really like a step up above regular
Mm,
treaty ally, but it is not a member of NATO. And
okay.
the distinction there, Ericka, is that we are not obligated in the way we are with NATO to respond on Israel's behalf. It's just
Oh,
it's the good thing to do. It's what your allies do when you're down. Your allies step in when they can and they're helpful. What Iran may be looking to do, though, is going to that NATO response. If Iran were to launch an attack on us in the United States, NATO would be obligated, every NATO member country would be obligated to respond against Iran. The only time, and
right.
this is called Article 5 of the NATO treaty, very technical, but the only time Article 5 has ever been invoked in the history, 75 plus year history of NATO, was after 9/11, when it was an attack on one is an attack on all, and our NATO allies rallied to our side.
Interesting.
So that's interesting. So I have two questions there. The first is whether or not it's really been tested, because 9/11 was such a black swan event.
Right.
And therefore, question one is, what qualifies as an attack on a NATO member? I mean, what's the threshold, right? Because I mean, is an attack one missile, or is it five, right? Is an attack 100 missiles? So that's the first question. And the second question, Bonnie, really comes down to more of what options realistically does Iran have? Israel is going to respond. Right. And they're going to respond decisively. I don't think there's any question about that, right? And it goes to Ericka's question about endgame, but that's a much broader conversation. So my question is, Israel responds, whether they go after the nuclear reactors, because there's now the whole issue of how long is it going to take for Iran to develop a nuclear warhead, because obviously based on the materials they have, they can do it, at least as far as been reported, fairly quickly. And do they have a delivery vehicle, right, for that? So Israel responds. The first question is, what qualifies as an attack on NATO? The second question is, once Israel responds decisively, whatever that is, what's Iran's real options here without really escalating this? Because they don't want to escalate.
I'm not sure. So in answer quickly to your first question, what constitutes an attack? Russia has been launching attacks at Ukraine, and occasionally those missiles land in Poland. Technically, Poland could request that Article 5 be invoked anytime a missile lands on Polish territory. It's up to the offended party, Poland in that case, to request that NATO's Article 5 be exercised.
Okay, so that's why the U.S. somebody got hit today in retaliation, or I'm trying to remember. I think like a U.S. ship got hit or something, and when the general was asked about it in the press conference, he was like, "Well, it was like a mistake technically, and so that's why we're not hitting them back." Or no, he said it was because nobody got injured. Oh, that was what he was like. Oh, we're not bombing them back because no one got injured. I was like, okay.
Yeah, there are words to describe that. They're not good. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then to the next question.
What are Iran's options?
Yeah. So then.
Okay. So that sounded like, so it is the nonsense that it sounds like then.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I mean, Iran-backed Houthi rebels have been launching missiles and rockets at the shipping lanes of the Red Sea for months now. And they've been hitting American cargo ships, British cargo ships, Greek cargo ships, and NATO has not responded.
And we do nothing.
Wow.
And we do nothing.
Why?
We've done teensy bits here and there to just like let them know that we're there. But it's our response has been negligible, which is why they've ignored it. And why they've persisted in these attacks on shipping. And that has effectively cost the global economy by now close up on $1 trillion in delayed shipments of goods. But because this is a major transshipment point from Europe to Asia, and into Africa, comparable to the Suez Canal. If not larger. And they have effectively shut down those shipping lanes. So it's totally nuts. And the Biden administration has been very reluctant to respond because they don't like the term escalation. They would rather have some very harsh words like don't.
So they're cowards. That's what I hear you saying, Bonnie.
Cowardly. But I think for Israel, at this point in time, the gloves are off.
Yeah.
And Prime Minister Netanyahu has been warning for years about the threat of Iranian nuclear capabilities for years. His previous to this one, his joint session before Congress was about the Iranian nuclear missile threat, which then led President Obama to sign on to the Iran nuclear deal
Yeah, and
because
give
he
them a bunch of
ignored
money.
Netanyahu. And to everyone's great surprise, not at all, Donald Trump said he would pull out of the deal. He did, and Biden immediately re-entered it. Iran has been manufacturing and preparing for a nuclear strike on Israel for years. And now, according to intelligence, I understand that Iran is a week away from having nuclear missile capability, 2 weeks maybe. The good news is today, by launching 190 ballistic missiles, maybe one of those they had planned to add a nuclear warhead onto and didn't have a chance yet. So it's one less missile they have available that might be nuclear capable.
Well,
But
and didn't the Biden administration, so the Obama administration unfroze hundreds of millions of dollars, and then the Biden administration gave them
billions,
and then
billions.
billions. Obama was billions also, because
Mhm.
Biden gave them 16.
Well, and Biden straight up wrote a check for $6 billion for them to release 5 hostages that they had taken,
right.
American citizens. And
Wild.
this was before October 7th. This was early on in
Yep.
Team Biden's tenure. And they wrote a check for $6 billion. They released Russian prisoners from American jails for the release of Brittany Griner. They capitulated to kidnappers and paid prices. And everybody cautioned and said everybody with the brain and said, this is a terrible precedent to be setting. You don't negotiate with terrorists. You don't cave to hostage takers' demands. And it led to this crazy, in part, it led to October 7th with the kidnapping of 256 Israelis and foreign nationals who have now been held in Gaza for almost a year.
Right. Bonnie, to me, I try to simplify things. The oversimplification is this is schoolyard. International relations is schoolyard politics, right? If you don't confront the bully becomes more aggressive, right? And it's almost Pavlovian that if you don't punish someone who does something bad, they're going to be incentivized to do it again. And I realize that's a gross oversimplification, and geopolitics and real politics sort of dictates things slightly differently. Let's shift really quickly, though, to the technology. So 190 missiles, I had heard a higher number, but let's just assume it's 200 missiles.
Yeah.
Right. Let's assume it's 200 missiles. Almost none of them landed. And you were right, by the way, and ladies and gentlemen, what we didn't bring up in the chat is lost in all of this was there was a terrorist attack in Tel Aviv that did kill 7 or 8 or 9 people today at the same time. So we don't want to lose sight of that as well. But I want to get back to the technology that Israel has that they're using to intercept the missiles. It's the Iron Dome, but it's something else as well, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, Israel think about a dome, a protective dome to cover the entirety of the land of Israel. So this protective dome is called Iron Dome. They also have an ability that they call David's sling.
Slingshot or sling, right?
Yeah, to intercept missiles outside of Israeli territory that are launched toward Israel. The capabilities of the Israeli Defense Forces are truly extraordinary. This is what Ronald Reagan referred to as SDI, Strategic Defense Initiative, which was called Star Wars when he was president. The ability to shoot missiles out of the sky with a missile with incredible precision.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so I just have to say, what I just heard you say is that Israel has space lasers. So I'm just saying, homegirl was given a lot of crap for saying that the Jews had space lasers, and what I just heard you say was they have space lasers.
Space lasers. Control the weather
saying.
too.
All right, so we'll on that note, ladies and gentlemen, hang on. We are going to hear from our sponsor, ASIC, Defenders of American Freedom. When we come back, we will be here with Bonnie Glick talking more about the insane happenings around the world. So make sure that you like this video, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you've got a question for Bonnie, leave it in the comments section. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell, and we'll see you back here in just a minute.
Socialism. The goal of socialism is communism. The world is quite familiar with socialism and the horrors socialism has brought with it. It wasn't that long ago. Actually, it's still with us. Socialism creeps into government slowly until it's too late. Socialism, the big lie. Yes, it could happen anywhere. This educational video was brought to you by the American Center for Education and Knowledge and paid for by people like you who care about the future of our democracy. Please help us continue our work educating the American public and consider supporting ASIC by making a tax-deductible donation at asicfund.org.
And we're back with Miss Bonnie Glick.
We are back. So Bonnie, I want to shift to technology. You were the former deputy administrator for USAID. You have a technology background, and as I mentioned in your introduction, that you co-authored three patents. I mean, give us a peek into Israel technology. I mean, we all heard about the pagers, right? And not only the pagers, but they were able to target the walkie-talkies in Lebanon. So the technological advantage necessary. But give us a little more insight into some of the technology. I don't necessarily even mean military technology, but some of the technological developments and innovations that people don't know came from Israel.
Right. It is. That's such a great question. And people would be shocked to learn that GPS was originated in Israel. What we depend on in the form of Waze, for example, which was acquired by Google Maps for like $8 billion several years ago. Waze was an Israeli startup. And I heard today a really fun description of the Israeli Air Force, that it's really just a technology company. And on some level, that's actually true. The most incredible technologies in Israel, which is called the startup nation because it has more startups per capita than any country in the world other than the United States. It has more companies listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange of any country other than the United States. And this is from a country of 9.5 million people. So it's a pretty incredible place to be running in. Israeli entrepreneurship and this idea of creativity often comes from an internal need, an internal requirement. When Israel became an independent state recognized by the UN in 1948, it was largely a desert country, and yet it had all of these people who needed to eat. And it was basically a developing country, very poor, a lot of refugees from World War II, from Nazi Germany and from across Europe, as well as the people who had lived there for centuries prior to the formal establishment of the state. And they have people to feed in a desert country. They need water, or they need to find ways to make the best use of the scarce resources that they have. Israel now, today, 2024, compared to 1948, Israel is the country in the world that reuses and recycles more of its water than any other country in the world. And wow. The percent of Israel's water that is recycled or reused, and for reuse, that's in agriculture, that's in hydropower, the The reuse percentage of water in Israel is 90%. 90% of Israel's water is reused or recycled. The second closest country is Spain. And in Spain, they reuse and recycle 17%, 17.
Wow.
So
Wow.
between Israel recycling 90+% of its water and Spain at 17% is really extraordinary.
Wow.
But what Israel has done is said, because it's constantly in this struggle to have allies, it has reached out to countries all over the world who are in situations today that are similar to the situation that Israel was in at its founding. So they're desert countries. They suffer from climate shocks, and Israel shares technology with them. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has gone on tours of African countries, for example, showcasing Israeli water technology to local smallholder farmers to offer to them for free. This is Israel's give back to the world, the technology associated with the startup nation, particularly in agriculture, in water, in communications. It's really amazing.
Bonnie, it never occurred to me, even though I know the history of Israel, for some reason, the way you just said it really struck me. It is a baby country.
It's a
It
young
is
nation.
brand new. It is brand new. And the idea that it has gotten where it has, um, I'm not, I hate to get all biblical on the show, but I'm just saying that God said, if you mess with my people, and I'm, and that, the Jews, Israel is my people, and I'm going to bless you, and I'm going to make your enemies pay. And, ugh.
You make a good point there, Ericka, by saying it's a baby nation. It's actually also an ancient nation and an ancient people. And I think that connective tissue of the ancient and the modern is the thing that makes Israel such an extraordinary demonstration to the world of whether we get biblical or not. It's really a land and a people that have always been one. And yeah, in the Bible, God says, "I will bless those who bless you, and those who curse you, I will curse." And Israel shares its bounty and shares its blessings with any and all takers. And that just exemplifies kind of that pioneering spirit of, we know how hard it is, and we want to help ease the burden for others as well.
And Bonnie, and that's part of the issue with why we put Israel Appreciation Day together again, which I'm thankful you were such a key part of that. Is the only thing that most people in this country know is that it's a Jewish nation or the Jewish homeland, and that it's a U.S. ally. But really, and that was the show, right? Which was a modern miracle and an ancient hope. When you think about it from that Israel is such a young nation, yet really, 2,000 years ago, right? The people of Israel were conquered. They were scattered. They came back. It's the same place, the same land. It's the same language. It's the same alphabet. It's the same prayers, right? And you're right. They reclaimed the desert and the swamps, and to make Israel, the regional superpower that it is. It on one level, it is really concerning that obviously Israel is being attacked. On the other hand, it is quite a hopeful story and a marvelous story in Israel, that the perseverance of it all. But I do want to bring you back to with just from a geopolitical standpoint. If Israel responds to Iran, what are Iran's options? Because I had said that I don't think Iran wants to escalate this, and I sort of detected that maybe you're not so sure, that you don't agree with that.
Yeah.
right?
I
Good
think
question.
Iran has, at this point in time, nothing to lose. Iran is the largest state
Interesting.
sponsor of terror in the world. They are
Right.
the paymasters and trainers of Hamas and of Hezbollah and of the Houthis and many other terrorist organizations. And the one thing that they all have in common is a hatred of Israel and a desire to see Israel destroyed. Well, what Israel has done over the course of the last nearly 1 year is push back and fight back. Israel has very close to decimated all of Hamas's military capabilities in Gaza. Even though the United States repeatedly said restraint, restraint, ceasefire, blah, 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 Israel knows what is in the interest of its citizens, and protecting those citizens means eliminating the threat from Hamas. Hezbollah, simultaneously almost with Hamas, the day after October 7th, Hezbollah began showering Israel with thousands of missiles. Over 9,000 missiles over the course of the last year have been launched at Israel. Now that Hamas is on its back foot, we'll just say, and hopefully more than that, Israel saw the opportunity to start penetrating and destroying Hezbollah as well. Hezbollah was always seen as a much bigger threat than Hamas because it was much better armed, much better trained, and it was Hezbollah that up until this week had been the one deterrent that Iran had to keep Israel from striking its nuclear capabilities. Iran knew that Israel's not going to respond because Hezbollah will attack. Well, all of Hezbollah's leadership has been eliminated. All of its middle managers and senior managers have been beeped, we'll just say. We'll use that as an and so the deterrent effect that Hezbollah has been able to provide is gone. And there's nothing at this point in time, one, to deter Israel from acting, and two, at this point, Iran's kind of got nothing to lose because all of their protection is gone. They know that America and Israel are pretty ticked off. So what's to stop them from doing this last righteous jihadi effort against the Jewish state? I would say there's very little to deter them.
Which then leads to the conclusion that Israel has to preempt.
Yes.
Israel,
Robert, it's not preemptive. They've been struck. They had hundreds of Iranian ICBMs shot at them today. There's nothing preemptive here. This is
no. I mean preempting a potential nuclear strike. That's what I'm not talking. I'm not talking about preempting. I mean, the provocation is already there, right? Iran attacked a sovereign nation twice, as you point out, in the last 6 months or so.
Yeah, why can't we just bomb them? I don't get it. Like, why can't we just bomb their nuclear facility?
Well,
or why can't
we being Israel, or we being the United States? Because the United States under the Biden administration, and let's go back to the Trump administration, right? No administration is perfect, but it was the Abraham Accords, in my opinion, that changed the dynamic that for the good in terms of on the verge of peace in the Middle East. And that, I think, was the casus belli for Iran through their proxy to start this war, right? I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and I'm not saying I'm right, but if you're going to ask me to assess, geopolitics. But my question, Bonnie, then is, Israel preempts a nuclear strike and attacks Iran. We'll see what Iran does. What does the U.S. do? What confidence level, or what do you believe that the Biden administration is willing to do and not do? Because there's so many stories about the pressure they put on them to accept peace with Hezbollah by giving up sovereign territory in the north, that they were withholding weapons, don't go into Rafah, in Gaza, don't finish them off, let them reconstitute. All of these sort of mixed and I'm being nice when I say mixed messages, because I don't think it's mixed messages at all. What do you believe the U.S.'s response will be, if any, in the next 30 days?
Well, I think it'll be under 30 days because we're 35 days away from a presidential election.
Fair
And
enough.
Israel has been extraordinarily successful every single time they do not inform the United States of their intended actions in advance. So I think that the American administration, the Biden-Harris administration, is going to be surprised, not surprised that Israel takes action, but surprised by what form that action takes and how many stages it comes in. And I don't have a crystal ball either, Robert, so I have no idea when it'll be, but I suspect that the leadership in Israel across the board, and probably most of the Israeli public, would like to see a change of administration in the United States. And they know that Biden and Kamala Harris, their end game is for Israel and Iran both to not lose, rather than for Israel to have total victory. Whereas I think Israelis look at a future Trump administration and say, this is the team that will want us to have total victory. And they know that we can do this on our own. We just need America to run cover for Israel in terms of international media, international opinion, and occasional support militarily. It would also be nice if the Biden administration didn't slow walk munitions that are scheduled to be sent to Israel.
Yeah. So here's the deal. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a disco ball. Okay.
Disco ball.
And what this disco ball is telling me is that sounds like a bunch of nonsense. Okay. So how can you both not lose? How did you I'm trying to remember how you phrased that.
Wait. You mean the nonsense is the Biden administration's position of moral equivalence?
Yes.
To try to get them both to win?
I can't even.
I'm gonna go one step the other side. They would actually like to see Iran in a superior position to Israel. This is a pro-Hamas administration, in my opinion. And
like,
you can candy coat this, Ericka. You can candy coat this any way you want it. But this administration, because all they care about, well, there's a couple things they care about, but one of them is winning re-election in November, and there are constituencies in Michigan and other places. I mean, why else do you pass over a moderate Democrat like Governor Josh Shapiro, right?
There cannot be more pro-Hamas people in America than there are pro-Israel. There can't. I just can't. I know we're seeing the craziness at college campuses, but let's be real. College students are stupid. So, what does their opinion matter anyway?
We're talking about voters. The other thing is the geopolitics of the region is they are trying to, between China and Russia and Iran, which we can call them what they are, which is the new axis of evil, right? I mean, they're clearly all connected.
Don't they have an acronym?
That I don't know, but and we don't have enough time because I know, Bonnie, you have such knowledge in all of these kind of relations in the world. Because to me, the end game, the short end game is Iran, and you have to cut off the head of the snake. The Iranian, the people forget Iran is not Arab; it's Persian, right? It's a very old people, and Persians have always only historically shown deference to absolute force. You cannot rationalize or reason in Western thought with the mullahs of Iran because they don't think rationally in Western sense. So they don't react. They don't. Well, you don't think rationally, Ericka, in America. So that's okay. But that's okay. But then the question is the whole China. Pull China into this for us, Bonnie, because China has a role here. And China is involved in all of this, whether it's weapons, whether it's money, whether it's Belt and Road. I mean, which is encircling us around. I have friends who are ambassadors, right? I mean, I know what's going on in Africa, and they're buying. I mean, so is not China really, I won't say they're the man behind the curtain or the country behind the curtain, but isn't China as involved in this Iran Israel war as any other nation on Iran's side?
Oh, I think China is one of the most interesting countries to observe. There's an old Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And that is what we are all living in now. China was the first country to swoop in August of, or early September 2021 into Afghanistan to help the Taliban pick up all of the pieces that were left behind by the United States, including all of the weapons that we left behind, so that they can reverse engineer them and get access to our technologies, but also to get access to all of the rare earth elements that are present in Afghanistan. China is all about China, and China is all about beating America. But here's an interesting thing. In the course of this entire war since October 7th, China has just been whipping Israel publicly, talking about genocide, talking about war crimes, denigrating the Israelis until the beepers. And after the beepers, and after the hit on Hassan Nasrallah, who everybody believed was in a secure location, China gave a little finger wag at Israel. China wants to pick winners, period. And that kind of realpolitik is actually a little bit more genuine than this fake allyship that the Biden-Harris administration has been demonstrating toward Israel.
Well, the interesting thing to me is if, and there's certain principles we operate on, and the one I think we're operating on now is that it's a really bad sign when your enemies no longer fear you and your friends no longer trust you, right? But with that as a backdrop, if Israel cannot depend on the United States in the same way, and I go back, I'm a student of politics and history, not as much as you, but certainly, back in the 50s, under Nasser, when they were more in the Russian orbit, and there were things like, relationships change and strategic alliances change. If Israel can't depend on the United States for weaponry or other things, who would they turn to?
Well, what Israel is doing now, and has been doing since October 7th, is ramped up its domestic capability to manufacture its own weapons. This is an industry that used to be extraordinarily robust in Israel until President Obama signed a 10-year security agreement with Israel, ensuring that the United States would back Israel up with needed weaponry should a situation arise in which it was needed, only on the condition that Israel exclusively purchase from the United States.
Of course.
Which led to the shutdown of dozens of Israeli arms manufacturing companies domestically in Israel. What Israel has, this is a little known footnote in history. And what Israel has seen now since October 7th is, if we can't depend on the United States, our industry has to come back. And they had some of the best arms manufacturers in the world. They were exporting arms around the world as well, to allied countries, not to bad guys. If Israel can restart its industry, it will put Israel in a more secure position. So that's what Israel has been doing since October 7th. And I think what we'll start to see is this will all start to come online relatively quickly, but it's all relative, Robert and Ericka. They won't be fully online manufacturing at the level they need to be. My understanding from the Israelis is until 2025. So we're still, if not a year out.
Well,
so
and this is
here to there.
Yeah, I mean, this is the lesson we learned in COVID, right? All of our medicines are made in China, and you got a bunch of anti 2A people in office Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have been blessed with the presence of Mrs. Bonnie Glick. Thank you so
For
much for
sure.
being with us. Okay, let's oh my gosh, Bonnie, I feel like I could talk to you like all day long.
I promised her she was only coming on for 2 segments. She, you
I
know,
know, and we went.
she's got a date with the VP debate tonight. I think she's got popcorn somewhere that she needs to
Oh,
pop to get ready for the debate.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for being with us, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again soon when we get some updates. We'll have you back on when we get some updates on the situation.
Thank you so much, and Happy
All
New
right.
Year to all of your Jewish
Shan-
viewers.
Oh,
Shana
thank
Tova
you.
to you and your
Thank
family.
you.
Thank you. All right, you guys. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to say thank you to our sponsor, ASIC, and be back. And in the meantime, throw something in the chat. Throw something in the comments. Give us a
Ah,
question. Let us
they,
know.
they, they have no guts.
They
Come on,
have no guts.
hey, you got no guts. Where are your
Why don't
comments?
you have any guts, eh?
Right. All right.
Let me see your guts.
America came into being based on a shared belief and a common set of values. Unlike other nations that were bound together based on common ancestry, race, or caste, we came into being based on a simple and shared set of ideals. That the power of government is based on the consent of the governed. That life, the freedom to live life on our own terms in our own way, free from government interference, and liberty, our most precious value, and the pursuit of happiness, which means we are free to pursue that which we choose, with the knowledge and courage to know that nothing is guaranteed to us in this life. Those values, America was founded on these basic inalienable rights. Freedom to pray to God in our own way. Freedom to think and speak freely without fear of punishment or harm. And freedom to gather in our places of worship and in our local taverns. And freedom to defend ourselves, our families, our homes, and our neighbors as we see fit. The American Center for Education and Knowledge is dedicated to protecting American exceptionalism anywhere and everywhere it is threatened.
ASIC is a 501c3 and depends on your tax-deductible donations. Please help us continue our fight. And please help us continue our fight. We are back. Again, my thanks to Bonnie Glick. She is just, I call her a quiet rock star.
Yeah.
Right. She's the kind of public official that you want to clone, right?
Yeah.
Informed, intelligent, reasonable balance, but has such keen insight
Yeah.
into the geopolitics of what's going on in the world, and is just, she's just a rock star. That's
yeah.
all.
You described her. You said she's as smart as Bruce, but nicer, I think, or something similar to that. And she is like, oh my God, I just want to talk to her for hours and pick her brain about things.
I'm telling you, she was the first one when Israel Appreciation Day. I was in Florida at a hotel doing something on some business trip, and I was, we had formulated it. We were putting it in Israel Appreciation Day. As I said, Paul Teller, good friend, referred me to Bonnie, and I knew who she was, but we had never met. And I just, because I'm Robert, I picked up the phone and called her. She was so gracious, and she just basically said, Robert, this is great. She goes, we're gonna do this, and she has been there from the beginning. So again, Bonnie, if you're listening, thank you. So we need to segue, since we do have a vice presidential debate tonight.
Ooh,
are you watching? So I haven't decided if I'm going out to get pizza or if I'm going to just have popcorn. But
no, we're going to be doing a live debate commentary over at Generally Irritable. So anybody watching, go over to Generally Irritable.
Let's pitch. What time?
9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central.
Okay.
Come watch us make fun of our politicians. Get your whiskey, get your tequila, get ready.
Yeah, maybe a martini night, that is for sure. But did you hear? So since we're into politics, so you must have heard about the thing with this place in Pittsburgh, right? This restaurant, Primanti's.
No, what?
So a month ago, Harris Walsh are there, and they welcome, and Primanti's. Look up Primanti's, Primanti, Primanti's in Pittsburgh. It's one of the suburbs. warm welcome to the Harris, Walz campaign. Harris is there or Walz is there, I forget. So JD Vance, since he's on tonight in the debate, shows up. They knew he was coming, and all these people showed up to see him, and they wouldn't let him in the restaurant. They kicked him out.
What?
Why does this only happen on the Republic? So is it just that Republicans are nicer? Like, you never hear of a Republican. I mean, they may put up, signs that say, a Trump sign, or they say, no, go woke, go broke. But why is it only the Democrat institutions like Promonte kick out Republicans, and that's okay?
That is him trolling, though. I mean, really, like, if they had a whole JD Vance, if this restaurant was like, we're gonna host Harris Walz because look at us, we're good.
Wait. Here's the article.
Wait, what did I miss? What did I miss?
So Vance in Pittsburgh stops by Promonte Brothers Restaurant and Bar in North Versailles.
Yeah.
Right. And the server kicked him out. Management, quote, was aware of it. And an employee told the campaign that this was not a campaign stop and JD's not allowed inside.
That is funny. I'm sorry. You have to admit. I mean, here's the deal. That is funny. Definitely JD Vance trolling a little bit. So I'm not surprised at all, but it's funny. I think it's funny.
No, but it's but to me it goes back to the civility. Look, politics is a blood sport, right? And I get that. And if you want friends in politics, buy a dog, right? It's very simple, right?
Yeah.
But as we've talked about, it used to be that we as a country agreed on the goal. We just disagreed on the methodology or the path or the road to get there.
Yeah, but
now we don't even
anymore.
agree. Well, no kidding.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't Reagan's, Republican Party. This isn't Kennedy's Democrat Party. Like, and let's be real, they never had decorum. Okay, first of all, the people I just mentioned, there's plenty to criticize. They had back in the day. Who was it? It was back in the
back in your day or back in my day?
No, back in like in the 1800s. There was one presidential election where they spread rumors. They took out a newspaper ad that one of the guys was dead.
No. Wait. You should look up Jefferson versus Adams. So Adams called Jefferson a hermaphrodite, and the other one said
they're like,
that they're
going to syphilis.
They're gonna rape your women in the streets or something.
Look, they've always been nasty. They've always been ridiculous and nasty.
All right, fair enough.
The problem is that you used to have Paul Revere sending the message, so you had like one person writing the letters back and forth and writing the newspapers, and now
excuse me, for those who can't see her, she's pretending she's riding a horse. I just want you to see that she's pretending she's riding. I don't know what kind of horse, and I don't know how big the horse is. It like 14 hands or something, but it's a horse, not to be confused with like Mr. Ed, like Wilbur, right? Okay.
But the point is, like, you didn't used to be able to spread the stupidity so quickly. You didn't, you know what I mean? So, but they've they've never had decorum. Let's be real.
Let me segue on stupidity. Did you see John Kerry at the we're in Where's the Outrage, right? God. WTO, Where's the Outrage? Oh my God, John Kerry. John Kerry. John, I was for it before I was against it. Kerry basically said he wants to do away with that. The First Amendment's a problem. So he's at the World Economic Forum, and someone asked him about the disinformation about the green energy, and here's his response. There's a lot of discussion now about how you can curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have some accountability on facts. To have him talk about facts is an oxymoron. Let me finish. But look, if people only go to one source and that source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
What?
I shouldn't laugh. So clearly these guys like Kerry.
What?
You got to read the article. I mean,
dude doesn't know what the First Amendment says, I guess.
Sure he does. He doesn't like it.
That's why. Quote, that the First Amendment is to hammer out
the First Amendment
you don't like.
The First Amendment is an obstruction to getting rid of disinformation. So therefore we should get rid of the First Amendment. No, wait. He basically says, so what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully winning enough votes that we're free to be able to implement and change. Gee, I wonder what change he's talking about.
Oh my God, these people are freaking fascists, bro. It is like right out there. It is so obvious. They are
Right.
not hiding it. They're not hiding it. How are we having a conversation that
Redic,
Republicans are the threat to democracy when the Democrats are openly calling for fascism
So
and socialism?
here, and he goes on to say, democracies around the world are now struggling with the absence of a sort of truth arbiter. So now they want a truth arbiter. Thank you.
Oh,
And there's no
hallelujah.
one who defines what the facts really are.
Oh,
I mean,
oh
right.
my God. Oh, wait a second. Isn't that, oh my, are we actually
is-
in 1984?
I
Hold
was
on.
going to say it's Orwellian, don't you think? I think
Oh
it's
my
Orwellian.
God. It literally, like, bro, do you or do you
Am
not?
I your bro?
You're my bro right now.
I'm your
like,
bro. Okay.
Bro stuff. Animal Farm, the two-leggers.
Yeah. Well, the two-leggers are, all animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Some are
right?
more
Isn't
equal
that-
than others. And ladies
I'm
and
more-
gentlemen, your two hosts, your host, Robert Chernin, and his co-host, Ericka Redic, we're more special. We're more equal
We
than
are?
others. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. And that's why you should right now hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure the notification bell is turned on. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Tell us you liked it. Tell us you hate it. And most importantly, if you've been liking the video, if you've gotten something out of it, we thank you for watching this long. And if you haven't liked it, if you've hated it, we appreciate the hate engagement.
We did well, sort of, kind of.
Yeah. But on that note, next week,
that note-
we've got another special guest.
We do. Who is it?
I can't tell. It's a secret.
I know who it is.
Who is it? Tell everybody.
Veronica Robles.
Ooh.
And her organization is.
I
You
don't
got it up,
remember.
Brooke?
I can't remember. I'm the worst.
It's about human trafficking and
It's
really
about human trafficking.
and really human trafficking as it pertains to women and sex trade and sex
Yes.
slaves and those kinds of things. And what people don't understand, we go back with Jacob Buyens when he was here probably over a year ago. People don't understand that they talk about, slavery, the original sin. There is more slavery in this country now
That's right.
than there ever was back in the founding days of the country. It's just not, let's call it black slavery or slave trade, but it's sex trade, it's human trafficking. It's such
That's
an
right.
important topic. So next
Make
week,
sure.
tune in, Victoria Robles. And thanks for
And
joining
we may
us.
have some other special guests. You'll have to tune in
might.
and see.
We might. Don't tell. Shh.